Hi, everyone. Welcome to Turnpikes Live. I'm joined today by Sina, who's going to be talking to us about smart coding within VIM. So hopefully we can have an interesting chat about some of the features that offers the AI that is already incorporated and sort of hidden within VIM, and we can bring some of those features to the forefront. So, firstly, welcome, Sina. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Excellent, good. Do you want to just give a quick overview of who you are, what you do, before we sort of get into it?
Yeah, definitely. So I am the CMO and enterprise sales lead for Turnpikes. I cover mainly the Nordics from a sales perspective, and that means I'm interacting a lot with all our different clients in the Nordics, which many of them are big corporations who, are, of course, using our vendor invoice management tool by OpenText for SAP, and that is what we are kind of diving into today and talking about. In relation to this, I do have a background working with AI within the invoice management space, and I think some of that knowledge I'll try and incorporate in our conversations today.
Excellent. So I think we can get straight into it with the point you made there, really, which is you've obviously worked with a lot of clients in this space. What are the major challenges that they are trying to address before we even get to a conversation about smart coding within VIM?
Yeah, so I think when we're talking about the invoice space and for this particular area where it's very much about the non-POs, it is a super time-consuming exercise, and it is all the way from receiving the invoice, bringing it through the OCR, where it is, of course, becoming a digital document, and within that, kind of reaching what's happening, what is this document about, getting the right information out, and then further to the receiving end, where the coding will take part. Whether that's done within a shared service center or in an AP team or actually a user in the business sitting and doing the coding lines. That is time consuming and can both have many iterations, but also in itself is a very repetitive exercise. And for that, many are looking into okay, like I've heard numbers that on average it takes 8 minutes per invoice to handle that on a more manual level. So automation in that space, of course, is crucial.
8 minutes, that's huge.
It very much is.
Yeah.
And you see some companies are doing pretty well already done some automation. Maybe they have it down to 3 minutes. But even if you're talking 3 minutes or 2 minutes, when you calculate over 100,000 invoices per year, or we have a client who have 400,000 invoices non-PO per year, it's a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in marketing, so don't make me do the maths on that. We'll ask someone smarter. Um, and I think that you've touched on a point there. It's probably only going to get more complex as well as the sort of e-invoicing mandates evolve across the world, and the look and feel of those invoices changes because I guess even humans are AI is fundamentally a repetition of a certain activity, right? Recognizing pattern and moving forward with that. So, how does smart coding offer any form of sort of automation there? How does that speed things up for people?
Yeah, so when we're talking about smart coding in this space and what part of the VIM solution, it's like, of course, very much talking about the newer versions. Um, you have the capability on the coding side that AI will predict out from your historical use how this specific invoice should be coded, and the fact that you, when you receive your invoice, have all these suggestions about how to actually code the invoice makes, of course, that exercise a lot easier, and it is a way to reach a touchless point because the more you work with it, and the more it learns, you're able to actually say, okay, AI can actually do the coding for all these specific vendors because we trust that it actually goes through in a good way because they're predictable in terms of how right the answers are, reach a level that we feel secure about. And that is, of course, very new. You might have had rules or you might have used robotics to do these type of things, but that didn't have the intelligent level that we are working with today, and that gets very positive feedback from many of our clients implementing it.
So I think we could talk for quite a long time about the hypothetical idea of smart coding. You know, what the marketing brochures say, so on and so forth. How have you seen it actually working, and what successes have you seen in the real world?
Yeah, so just yesterday I was at one of our big clients. It's a huge pharmaceutical company in Copenhagen, and they implemented smart coding 4 months ago. And the feedback they get from the business, where that is very much the business who are sitting and actually doing the kind of last bit of the coding, and they experience now that when they receive the invoice that they are about to code, that there is a suggestion and it's rated like on like with high percentage. This is probably uh, where you're thinking about and how you want to code this invoice, and they're able to choose the suggestion, which means that it's a few click instead of them thinking about what they should be doing and maybe choosing from a long drop down or writing it. And they see very positive feedback on this. And next step for them is to then go more touchless in their sense. So say, okay, maybe some invoices don't even need to go out to the business, but they actually trust on the historical information created that it can go straight to next step, and in that way become closer to touchless.
Amazing. And in terms of, future proofing for them, I'm guessing that will help to support on their move to this constant change of e-invoicing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think it's it's freeing up time both in the AP space of that group, but also out in the business, where they're able to implement and automate other things as part of e-invoicing could be one of them as well, which is high on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously this focuses on non-purchase order invoicing. That's which would explain some of those 8 minute 8 minutes. Where's this come from? Where's it
Mm,
supposed to go? Who's the actual? Where's the code for paying this?
mm.
Are there any sort of explorations you've done with clients where you've just seen a consistent problem that comes up that we're going to have to solve before we sort of move forwards?
I think when you have the whole line starting from the OCR part, the recognition of the actual invoice, that part has a lot of challenges and has over the year been painful for a lot of companies. And here we see the use of AI also bringing a lot of value in terms of the capabilities in the actually OCR machine being able to recognize um, the invoices a lot better, and not being as heavy template, but more in terms of these type of invoice. It's these different places that the things are, and the way that those are the one to be extracted correctly. So there's a big time saving there, which in the 8 minute calculation comes from all the way from that part and until the very end. And that together with the smart coding are solving two big pains in terms of the manual work needed, where human being has to look at it, think about what to change and choose from the both from a template side of view and also on the actual coding side.
And I guess the obvious benefit there is the reduction in risk, right? Because we all know that major risk comes from human error most of the time. The more work someone has to do on any form of document, the more risk you carry with it. So if you are heavily regulated or you're adhering to any form of regulation, which let's face it, in the process we're talking about, you definitely are. Um, can you see this as a benefit to the regulation and compliance as well?
Yeah, I think for that, especially in terms of looking into are people sending more of the same invoices where they are trying to cheat or steal from a company, that type can be solved in a better way using the newest technology. And of course, it's also the fact that the people who has to be super observant of any threat that can be in that process, we those are the one who are saving time now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the main part.
Yeah, and I think that's where artificial intelligence, for me certainly across the board, has really the most benefit, is freeing people up, and we always say this is freeing smart people up to make smart decisions, and I think
Mm,
that's a real benefit that can come from smart coding here.
yeah,
I think
and
that
I think one of the interesting things is that even companies that are very PO heavy, so that is what they're using the most. They're doing 2 or 3-way matches within the invoice space, and that has had a lot of attention. And for that company, that would be usually where most attention is placed, due to those type of invoices in that space was usually, is related to the actual product or business that the company has, where maybe, let's say, the non-PO invoice part is maybe 20% or 30% or down to 10%. And those are usually less of a focus, because that is the flowers that's been bought for whatever happening, or food, or any kind of thing that is less structured. Um, but those, if you calculate it, the time spent on that area is usually very heavy, and sometimes spread out through the whole business, which means you're looking at management level, sometimes actually also doing some coding in some companies, or maybe it's all the assistants, but it's still a very expensive place to be doing this job, even if it's the AP team in Europe, or outsource further. It can take up a lot of time. So the fact that you actually are able to now do something in that space, and bring the time consumption down, and bring up the efficiency, is just kind of an easy thing to do for most company with this tool, where before it was actually hard to make something more efficient in that space before the use of AI.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention, you touched on it earlier, for the newer versions of SAP, VIM, this is a hidden feature, right? It's already there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just have to enable it. So it's not an add-on or anything. It's automatically come with it.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because knowing that that's there, understanding what AI tools you have at your hands already before you start deciding how do we start employing everything that everyone's talking about online. It's a very noisy space, AI, and it's a very complex area. It's got a million and one subsets that we've spoken about quite a few of those, but by no means in an exhaustive list. So understanding what you can do before you go outside of what you already have is pretty important. I think that goes down a lot better in a boardroom than extra spend.
No, very, very much. And also the fact that you don't need to give some other type of company data access or entry. It's the space you already have it. Data is there. As you know, Venegas management is an incorporated part of the SAP solution. So it is kind of already there.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, isn't it? That's a discussion we could have a good 40 minutes on another time, where we talk about data security and AI. We'll need more people for that one. Okay,
For
well,
sure.
thank you. Yeah, tell me about it. I think we both need people who are better in that space for that one. Brilliant. Thank you, Sina. Really appreciate
Thank
your
you so
time
much.
today. I hope everyone's found that interesting, and do feel free to reach out to us if you want to talk any more about smart coding. We also have a white paper. If you're interested in that, you can find that in our LinkedIn feed as well. So thanks very much. Much appreciated.
Super. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jamie.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.